Welcome back. I'm Alfred Lambremont Webre, and today we have the great privilege coming to us from Spain, author and researcher Ole Dammegard. Welcome, Ole.
Thank you so much, Alfred.
And today we have also the great privilege. We're being joined by Dr. Julieann Pankey-Mamula, who's joining us from a Native American reservation in Idaho. Welcome, Dr. Pankey-Mamula. May I call you Julieann?
Yes, please just call me Julieann, and I usually just go by Dr. Pankey. It's
okay.
Yeah, my maiden name.
Yeah, good. I would like to say that I am and share with our audience that Dr. Pankey, Julieann, I have her bio here, her resume, and she has an outstanding resume with a PhD in clinical psychology, followed by master's in multiple degrees, and being named nominee for outstanding counselor, and writing books in areas going to be very relevant here. So I just want to salute you for the academic and also practical, because you're actually applying all of these skills record to date, and we welcome you're bringing your expertise to this area. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Alfred. It's an honor to be sitting with both of you. I've listened to both of you for years, so I'm thrilled to be here.
Thank you. Well, Ole, I've received your PowerPoint, and I want to bring that up on share screen, and we'll do this for the first part of the program. Those who watched our last program, I'll just be very, very brief for those who may have watched our last program and those who are joining us. I believe that this PowerPoint brings us up to date on the issue of a possible underground pedocriminal vault that's been reported under the museum at Droop Mountain Battlefield State Park in West Virginia. That is the site of the last major battle of the U.S. Civil War in West Virginia. And all that will bring us through it, we've put out the word in West Virginia to many researchers. We haven't gotten any signal back yet from either authorities. The one Democrat senator who voted for Attorney General Jeff Sessions, who says that he has a mandate to prosecute pedocriminal rings, was from West Virginia. So all of these offices supposedly have been alerted. So that's kind of where the official posture stands for those who are interested. And now we're going to go further into the case, but I must say that we have not gotten an official ping back, as they say, from the locale. So having said that, we're going to go forward, and also because of my background as an attorney and a judge, you'll see that we have done very meticulous searches through Google Earth, through aerial photographs, etc., and we have discovered some very sensitive material dealing with organizations that are world famous and that deal with children that are immediately adjacent to the Droop Mountain State Park. And so we're going to just be showing this, and we're just going to be surmising with no intent to libel, no intent to make any actionable legal statements. We're just bringing up issues, and we're urging state authorities and private organizations to move forward on this, because we do not have the resources to follow it up on ourselves. So, having said that, that's our legal disclaimer, okay?
Yes.
in this day and age. Okay, we're going to go to share screen, and here we go. Oops. Let's see, where is the Droop Mountain? Okay, so here's desktop 1. Gee, I don't see where the I'm gonna
Maybe while you're fiddling around.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, why don't you bring us up
just
to
want to
date?
say,
Yeah.
No, I want to continue where you ended with that. The intention with this is, because there's a lot of horrific details and speculations and so on. The intention is to liberate these children, whatever situation they're in, get them out of this horrific thing. And in our attempts to do that, we are speculating. There's a lot of speculation going on here, but hopefully we will build it up in a way that it will have some kind of solid ground. Not that anyone is sentenced or guilty before having gone to trial or anything like that, but there will be things that is needed to be pointed out. And
Yes.
suddenly I lost my own screen.
Oops. Sorry.
No, not a problem. So for many, many years, I have been looking into different major assassinations and false flag operations and so on. So going into this area with child trafficking and satanic networks and so on is an area that I've really avoided in some ways, because I felt it is way above me, and it's also so horrific that I've been feeling that if I should be able to continue emotionally, I needed to stay away from this area and leave it to other people who were more tough, because I couldn't handle it. But then again, whatever area I've been digging into, once you get deep enough into it, you come back to the same thing. You bump into these networks where children are the victims, and where the people behind these power structures have a very weird sexual, I don't know, disease or tendency, but very bizarre things. So in the last program where we went into this, there were somebody sent me an email saying that her friend had been to the Droop Mountain Military Museum in West Virginia, which is quite isolated. It's way out in a national park. And while inside this small little museum, this man had heard some children cry for help from somewhere underneath the museum. So he had thought, oh my God, these children are stuck. I need to get them out there. So he went to get some help, and there were two men in suits that just, when he asked them, they totally denied that there were any children there, and more or less asked him to leave the premises. So once he got back, he contacted his friends, and he was very, very desperate for how to help these kids, because apparently the people that were there didn't want to lift a finger. On the contrary. So she contacted me, I contacted you, and boom, we tried to get it out there as soon as possible. So to start this whole thing, what I built a lot of my understanding of this is from my friend, the CIA whistleblower, Chip Tatum, who was a deep cover CIA agent for 25 years, and also one of the helicopter pilots, these black helicopters that was flying people in and out from different military installations, mental hospitals, prisons, and so on, in an exchange for people from, mind control experiments and all kind of weird things that was going on inside these different installations. And one of the things also, when you look into serial killers or created serial killers I'm talking about, or many, many weird things in different areas, also in pop culture and so on, there's very many connections to military installations, parents that were working for military intelligence, and so on. Often mental hospitals where they're doing all kinds of weird experiments, anything from bioweapons to horrific things, horrific. So anyway, I was some years ago, a few years ago, I went to Norway I'm trying to do a series of documentaries where I expose these false flag operations that have been carried out in Europe and the US, but on location with an undercover photographer, trying to debunk what the real truth behind many of these things. And one of the places I went to was the island of Utøya, where there's said to have been a mass shooting, and also the prison where Anders Breivik is said to be held. And the thing was that this is what you see here in slide 1. I'm standing outside the prison and Anders Breivik is behind there. And one of the things that caught my attention was that I thought, since this was the prison #1 in Norway and the worst mass killer in the history of Europe, I thought that he would be in a high top security prison. But look behind me. I mean, it's ridiculous. There's nothing there. But what I noticed was that around the walls, it's a small little prison, are like 10 meters of dead grass. You can see it in the background. It's dark brown. And afterwards, when I spoke to Chip Tatum about it, he said, no, that's the dead zone, the death zone. I said, what? Yeah, he said it's they dug down high voltage cables underneath the grass, and this the voltage is always on, but on a low level, and that is what's killing the grass. But so if you get too close or somebody wants to try and get out, they just pull the switch and you're fried bacon. So that is the thing, because I noticed when we were close to the wall that I started feeling physically ill around that. But anyway, if you go to the next slide, this, like you see, this prison is very small. There's only very few buildings in there, and outside it there was a building that was like they were rented out cars, and in the background there were 2 additional buildings with 6 or 8 carports, but no windows in and so on. So that thing got me thinking, because Chip had been telling me about these areas where they do these experiments and all kinds of weird stuff, all very often around these military installations and so on, where there are like front companies surrounding these prisons and so on, where all the front companies are part of the, like owned by the CIA, different front companies and so on, all connected, but to keep normal people away. And the friend that took me there, if you go to the next slide, he wanted to show me something, because behind this building, there was a massive big container, and on the container it says Evergreen. And when I told Chip about this, he just laughed and he just said, oh, it's our old boys, because Evergreen is a CIA front company with transport services all over the world. So here I was in Norway looking into a mass shooting in Norway that is, in my opinion, very strongly connected to the CIA and Mossad. It's a very strong operation carried out by them together with NATO, the NATO country Norway itself, with the Delta team inside and so on. I've done one lecture called When Terror Struck Norway, where I go through this whole case in great detail. But so here, from being just in Norway outside a prison, suddenly I felt that I was looking at one of these operations where the CIA are directly involved. Because if you look at the next slide, you see me to the left, I'm standing there with a container, and you can see how close it is. The wall, the prison wall, is just like 25, 30 yards behind me. So this is very, very close. And if you go to the next slide, you will see that one of the things, when I was walking around in the area, I thought this is exactly what Chip had told me about. One of these installations with front companies, very discreet, with often no windows and so on. Often these companies are like computer security, telecom, these type of companies that are there but connected to the intelligence services or military intelligence. And one of the things he said that what is needed is also an airstrip very close by. So when I was there with this, with my friend here, and he showed me this whole thing, and the hair was standing up in my neck. When I was there, I asked, by any chance, is there an airstrip anywhere nearby? And he said, yes, it's just on the other side of that hill over there. Okay, so I asked for instance, what he thought about these offices and these buildings with the carports, what they were there. I mean, they were right up against the wall, more or less, to the prison. And he said, they're using tunnels for sure. You you fly them into the airstrip, you take them from the airstrip in buses or vans or whatever. You go into the, up with the carport, in with the car, close the door, and then there's a tunnel system going in under the wall into the installation. So nobody will notice what's going on. Absolutely not. So according to Chip, this was a normal setup in these areas. So when I come to any of such an area, I look out for similar things, military installations. Are there an airstrip nearby? Are there any of these front companies that looks like they could be belonging to this? Are there anonymous buildings with no entry doors or no windows or so on? So now if we go to the next slide, which is Droop Mountain. Here in Droop Mountain, since this man that had this experience, it's just a few weeks ago, he said that this is where he heard some children cry for help. So this is something we need to take very serious. Either the man is lying, which I cannot see why he should, or children are being held there because the people that were there in the museum did not want to help in any way or form. So this is why we focused on this area. Also because I've been looking a lot, since there's so many hundreds of thousands of children that disappears, where it's like a pipeline, apparently. I mean, it's almost like an industrial pipeline. So is there a template? Is there a special method how these children are being abducted? How are they taken? How do they disappear and so on? And one of the places that there are a lot of people going missing every year, especially young ones, are in the national parks in the US. So I don't know if anyone wants to comment, or I'll just keep going on.
Yeah, I'd just like to hear some comments from Julieann so far. What are your comments? I know that you're fresh to the Droop Mountain case, but just to hear some of your comments.
Yeah, what strikes you right off the bat is the connections with some of the stories that are recently being pushed in our media, like over the last year. For example, the tech billionaire Peter Thiel, who is pushing for injecting trans blood. Have you gentlemen heard about that?
No, please share that.
Yes, he is also mentioned a startup company in California named Ambrosia, and they had a small research study. I believe only 25 participants, but they had to pay $8,000 to participate, and they were given fresh young people's blood, and these are individuals who are their ideology includes the notion that this type of blood infusion on a weekly basis will, in point of fact, give them a type of life expectancy that exceeds the rest of us. So when I, think about what Ule is saying about, what are they doing with these children? Where are they getting them? Why are they getting them? I think, yes, for the rituals, yes to the Luciferian agenda. However, I think this blood lust that this group of individuals are seeking and are now openly in the media about it, touting it as the new, the name of the company is Ambrosia. How much more, obvious can it be? They're tempting people. Look, this is the new way for you to be young. And look at the new show on Netflix, the Santa Clarita Diet. Have either of you heard of that?
No. What is that?
All right, it is just began this February. It's starring Drew Barrymore, and it's about, I can't even believe I'm saying this, okay? It's about a woman who dies in the first episode. Live, and I say live in air quotes, for a life. She must live as a cannibal and drink blood. And she calls, if you go to the website, Santa Clarita Diet, they have all of this predictive programming, which is pushing the agenda of vampirism, of drinking of the blood, of drinking of the children's blood. And so in every episode, I have watched the show. I have no need to watch the show unless I do a lot of decoding of movies and TV shows. I probably will watch one episode just to do some decoding to see if there's some they're pushing this notion that hey, in every episode she gets hungry and the husband says, hey, in the intro, yeah, we were at the park and she got hungry, so we just killed the guy over. We killed him in the bushes, and then you see Drew Barrymore holding a massive chunk of bloody meat, eating it, and then she's got a like a sippy cup that ladies will use when they're running on the elliptical machine at the gym. One of those long cups that have a muscle man milkshake in them. It's got blood in it, or faux blood. So
right.
So they're pushing. What I'm saying is, we've got Peter Thiel coming out saying, drinking children's blood is the ambrosia. It's going to save everything. It's going to make us all young. We've got this new show, the Santa Clarita Diet. We've got shows like Family Guy, which is consistently, weekly joking about pedophilia with one of their main characters is a pedophile, and making it supposedly funny. It's he's the funny old guy. So everywhere we look, it's just being pushed. Honest, this transhumanist, transgender, but the taking from children for their use, the discarding, the dismissiveness, the total disrespect for life in general. So what I have to say about what Ulrich has found is that it's fantastically courageous of this person to have reached out to him. And I think we have, just like he says, got a bit of a thread. If we pull it through, I mean, who knows what type of a rabbit hole we're going to go down. But my part of it is to add the psychological ramifications of this, given that what we're looking at is the sequelae of childhood sexual abuse, of which I've had literally hundreds of clients. I've had over 10,000 therapy hours in the last 18 years of being a clinical psychologist. So just looking at the after effects of it, and also, you know, the secondary trauma of the three of us discussing it. Like you had said, Alfred, these are just difficult topics. This is difficult for the three of us to engage, to consume. It's difficult for the listener to hear, but it's something that we must pursue it. And so I'm thrilled.
Can I comment as well on
Yes,
after the so-called Nice attack or Nice attack in France, where we have debunked that in great detail, 2-hour interviews, step by step by step. So the number of dead people, I would say, is more or less zero, if any. But what they asked for right after these, I think that was after the Charlie Hebdo as well, they asked for incredible amounts of blood donors to come. I mean, it was in the hundreds of different blood donor centrals and stations, mobile stations that were driving around collecting blood. And also in Orlando, as far as I know, totally out of proportion to the people that were wounded, because they said no, because of the death toll, but dead people don't need blood. It's only for people who are wounded. So there's absolutely no proportion or balance in the whole thing. So here's once again, what is the whole thing with this blood? And there's another one. There's a big I think there was a documentary now on German TV where they are doing, I think in Switzerland, they have like these treatments with blood plasma that are extremely expensive. It's the plasma that is the hard currency here, it seems.
Yes, you are correct. That is what Ambrosia, the company, is selling for $8,000 a pop a week, is the plasma.
Okay, it just confirms. Can you please explain to me the name Ambrosia? What is the meaning of that? I don't know that.
Well, ambrosia means sort of the delightful drink of the gods. That would be ambrosia. So they named it in this mockery, right? They named it in, of course, all that they do is mocking us. Everything is mocking us, from every false flag that you've uncovered, that I've looked into. It, you know, I'm close to the Oregon shooting because I'm here in Idaho, and I did a massive decode and breakdown on that, and they did a blood drive on that too. And I thought, what are we doing a blood drive on this for? You know, first of all, it didn't even happen. Okay, it didn't happen. That's number one. Number two, why was there Red Cross even going over there from Idaho? What was that? Just to collect our blood so that it's on, you know, they have our DNA. That's what that's about. And also because they're using our blood in ritualistic fashion, because all the way back to, you know, to Babylon, to ancient times, to the Aztec, all the way back, human sacrifice, there's nothing new under the sun, and they're still up to the same hijinks that the voodoo that they do so well, and I say that ironically, they're still up to it.
Right. Now, this is quite amazing to me, because in the case of Ambrosia, the Ambrosia company and product, this is the first time that I've heard of the commercialization, the open commercialization of blood ritual
Yes.
sacrifice. Does the Ambrosia Company give any product indication of what the source of the young people's blood is, that is, where they get it? What do they say in their product advertising or, you know, their product certification?
They, to my knowledge, have not shared that. And when I saw an interview with Peter, who is sort of pushing this, just a tech billionaire individual who's not necessarily related per se with the company in and of itself, the folks that were being interviewed about Ambrosia were not sharing where they were getting the blood product from. And you're exactly correct. I was wondering, where's this blood coming from? I mean, they said donors. Okay. Is this the death? Is this, you know, the death ritual? Is this the cadaver? You know, so much of the elite, Skull and Bones, all of this is all built around the worship of a cadaver. I mean, even in Skull and Bones, they put them in a coffin and have them go through a ritual. You know, so it's a it's a symbolic death that you would go through, a gnosis, a reawakening. And so in a way, they're tying this blood infusion in with a Gnostic experience of reawakening. Sort of, if you take in this blood, then you then are becoming enlightened, and you're becoming sort of the 2.0 version of yourself. And that's what they were pushing more. They didn't use those words. Those are my words of what I was gleaning from it. It was a lot less about where they got the blood.
Right. Now, you mentioned a tech billionaire, Peter. Is that Peter Thiel?
Yes, Peter.
Peter Thiel. Well, yesterday I did a whole public note that I published with a photograph of Peter Thiel in an embrace with the current president of the U.S.
How ironic.
Yeah, and Peter Thiel, who made his big money selling high tech to NSA. He basically developed a spyware so that NSA can survey us most.
Yes.
Yeah. Now,
yes.
What he is doing under the current administration is that he has been given the portfolios by the current president, to whom he is a major contributor. He's been given, number one, he can name the current FDA administrator, which he's done, and the current FDA administrator is going to decimate all the regulations to where new drugs will not require any testing. And that's what I was exposing publicly 2 days ago.
Wow.
And Peter Thiel, what Peter Thiel is saying is that, you know, who needs legislation where I'm getting the right to name the heads of agencies that are just going to take down that agency. And so Peter Thiel is going into FDA. FDA regulates blood. And so what you have here is Peter Thiel is probably, and Peter Thiel, this is no reflection on LGBT rights. However, Peter Thiel is openly gay.
Yes,
and he sued a magazine and drove them out of business for revealing that he was gay.
Yes.
Now, there are studies. There's legitimately gay. However, there's also, if you're a pedophile, you're also considered gay. So the issue is, why was Peter Thiel in the closet? And why did he sue this magazine and drove them out of business on purpose? Because they revealed he was gay. And now he was seated next to the current president of the United States just a week ago. They were like this.
I'm sure they were.
And he had been given carte blanche to fill several cabinet posts, one of which is the FDA. And the FDA is a cabinet post that regulates blood. And I have a certificate from the Harvard School of Public Health. And I was an administrator of the Brownsville Community Health Center for several years in Texas, Brownsville, Texas, overseeing 90,000 patient encounters a year, 25 physicians, 120 nurses. So I know a bit about the healthcare industry.
Yes. How interesting, synchronicity.
Yeah. Now, so what we're seeing here is the industrialization of the rituals, of the ritual child sacrifice.
Yes, they're
Pedocriminal rings. The accession to power of the current president represents the industrialization through Peter Thiel and the FDA and companies like Ambrosia, appears by the evidence to represent the industrialization in consumer products of the ritual child sacrifice and the consumption of blood, which has been part of the ninth circle, as you say, going back to Babylon.
Absolutely. It's
Once again, nobody has been sentenced. We're speculating, but there's some very serious issues here, I would say.
Everything that has been said so far is a matter of public record. There has been nothing that has been said that is not in the public record. These are statements, public statements by Peter Thiel.
You can Google the article. When it first showed up, I have certain things set on Google I'm interested in. You know, I'm sure you guys do too, and you get alerts. And I'm interested in anything blood related, because I'm interested in the blood ritual stuff. So it showed up as a news article. So it's easily researchable. It's out there. It also mentioned the if I remember correctly, the 2006 article published in which is a very prestigious journal in the medical field, Nature, where they were discussing the appropriate use of stem cell research or not, and the harvesting of that from aborted fetuses. And then that sparked an entire discussion where what's going to happen when somebody receives stem cells from an aborted fetus, or somebody, they were also harvesting, if I recall, eggs, because I believe at around 6 to 7 months, the fetus, the eggs are fully developed in the uterus. So they were harvesting eggs as well from these aborted fetuses. So this was also mentioned in there in an effort for longevity. The same agenda, just a different flavor. So the whole ethical question was, so if we harvest an egg from one of these aborted fetuses, and then this child grows up someday and approaches the adoptive parents and says, whom was my biological parent? Well, your biological parent was never born. It was an abortion. And so that whole quagmire, which is also interesting, if you think about the predictive programming in Family Guy, the person who pushes pedophilia the most, the character is named Quagmire. So at any rate, this is another side story there. So at any rate, this is being kind of slowly rolled out. And then now these findings like Ule has found, where he's found actual someone who's saying, look, I'm hearing underground children. This is not just speculation there, and it's not just stories that we hear that there's castles in Europe where there's, you know, they're drinking blood or something. I mean, this person heard children screaming, and that touches my heart. It touches your gentleman's heart. It touches our listeners' hearts. That's why we're here.
Do you want me to continue with the
Yes,
description of
please.
Droop Mountain?
Yeah. Thank you for all of these updates. I mean, this is amazing. Just amazing. Please, Ole.
Would you mind taking the next slide?
Sure.
This is Droop Mountain, and we're very close to this war museum. And since a lot of Chip Tatum, what he talks about is the use of tunnel networks. And also here in Europe, under each and every major city, old city, there's a massive tunnel system. I mean, all of them, I would say. London, massive. Rome, massive. Paris, Rome, no, massive. Stockholm, I know for sure there's 618 kilometers of tunnels under Stockholm itself, just on the level underneath the subway level. So it's all over the place. And these tunnels are used really for military, but also all kinds of things that we're not supposed to know about. And I believe that this is one of these things. So are there any tunnels here, since there were children heard from underneath the surface of the earth? If you go to the next slide. I was sent this, and this is said to be a tunnel system underneath. I believe when you look at the way it's formed, this does not look like a modern type of network. I would say maybe it is from the Civil War these days and so on. And also, if you notice, here we have West Virginia Army National Guard Lewisburg Readiness Center, one of these military installations where the tunnels start. If you go to the next slide, you will see again a Google map of that area. So we go to the next slide, and yeah, for sure, there's more than one tunnel. There's quite a lot of tunnels in this whole area. There's old train tunnels and old tunnel networks that I would very much like to know more about. That is for sure. If you hear some of the entrances to some of the tunnels that are part of, you know, it's also like a commodity where they say, please come here to our national park. We have all of these things from the old days and so on. And this, by the way, is the Pocahontas County. So it's a bit of a name to attract children as well. So if you go to the next slide, not very far, I think it's about a few miles from Droop Mountain Army Museum, exactly where these children were heard. I looked around and I found this little place. There's not a lot of buildings in the area, so if you look at these three ones, if you go to the next slide, I'll point it out. Could
we wait here just a second? What is the Greenbrier Birthing Center? Is that is that like a midwife OBGYN center, or does anybody have an idea?
I have not been able to find out yet, but if you go to the next slide, I'll show you. So does this not strike to you that it's a bit weird that you have a Denmark Correctional Center, you have WV Correctional Industries, and right in between them, the only buildings that are there in the area is a birthing center. Doesn't
apologize
that
for my
strike you
dog
like
there.
very
Sorry.
odd?
Sorry about my dog barking, guys.
Oh, okay. No, we've got one here also.
Yeah, my little chihuahua here. I've got somebody at my door. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Of course,
No, fine. Sure. Yeah, I mean, as soon as Julieann gets back, because she's more in this area, it's highly unusual to have a birthing center next to a correctional institute.
I just Googled it real quick, gentlemen. Sorry about that. I've got an attacked chihuahua.
Ah,
I have some friends showing up to help me today with some moving tasks.
oh,
And I just Googled it really quick, and you're right. It is a birthing center, mothers and infants together. Goodness gracious, right?
now, why would you have a birthing center? I mean, you're also in. I mean, you're in this area, in this general area, Julieann. Isn't it unusual to have a birthing center adjacent to a correctional center and to correctional institutes? I know that there may have been real estate, land uses, but this looks very weird to me.
And please keep tunnels in mind as well, because just because they're separate buildings does not mean that they're not connected on the ground.
I mean, what's produced there is babies, right? Which are the prime product for a fresh young people's blood, for an industry that uses fresh young people's blood and flesh ritualistically.
And the frames, thank you. The what strikes me is the organ harvesting. I mean,
Yeah.
That's what's striking me about it. I'm just
Yeah,
having
also.
kind of like zing up my spine or something about it. I taught after I got my doctorate up in Alaska at the University of Alaska Fairbanks, and there are 2 military installations about 20 miles apart, and there's a huge tunnel system underneath between the 2, which is only pseudo hidden. I mean, they have a golf course and a bunch of other things, but you can see the Quonset huts literally buried underground, and the grass growing over it. And apparently the largest underground FEMA center is actually there at Fairbanks, the largest one in the United States, and it's all connected by underground. So Ule is correct that just because we can't see it here on Google Earth, which of course most of Google Earth is just blacked out anyway, there's most likely some kind of connection between the 2 here. And there are mothers, I mean, and I know this from having clients, mothers who've went to prison pregnant and given birth while in prison and had their children taken from them and went directly into Child Protective Service care, which is a whole nother rabbit hole.
Mm.
Right.
Children in, I'll just say one more thing and then I'll be quiet. Children in CPS care are 7 times more likely to be abused than outside of CPS care. So that's quite a staggering statistic in my field. So I work hard. I actually work on call for CPS, and I work very hard to keep the children with the biological parents or with the family of origin because of that.
Right.
Okay, so if you notice the upper building there called the Denmark Correctional Center, if you go to the next slide.
Sure.
Now this was established as a sanitarium in 1958 as a state site to treat African American with tuberculosis. Then it was turned into an a state hospital, a mental institution, and then closed in 1990, converted into a correctional facility in 1993. And it says a number of the patients who died here are interred in nearby cemetery. This, I tell you, is a typical place where they have been testing different kind of bioweapons, like in Clinton, Louisiana, around the JFK assassination. There's a massive whole thing around with Judith Baker, where they were testing bioweapons to try out and try to kill Castro with, and so on. And many of these places where they treated especially African Americans have been test grounds for all kinds of horrific things, anything from horrible diseases that they have not treated but just wanted to see how it how it develops and so on. And so this, I would say, is one of these places. I can almost guarantee you that this has been used like this. And here we see it's right next to these other two institutions with this birth center as well. So highly suspected, I think. And please understand also, this is in the middle of nowhere. There is no other buildings hardly than these. So if you go to the next slide, you will see there that there's the Droop Mountain Battlefield State Park where the children were hurt. And then you have Denmark. I mean, it's right. It's a stone's throw away. It's 3 miles if you walk in zigzag, but if you fly straight across, it's nothing, Or if you transport people in vans or whatever, very close by. Then if you go to the next slide, because I always try to see, are these things that Chip told me about, are they there? And there is one, what to me looks like an airstrip, a possible airstrip very close by. I don't know about you, but what does that look like?
Yeah, it looks like an airstrip.
And if you know that often helicopters are used or small planes as well, you don't need a lot of, these are often very skilled pilots. And so you don't need like hundreds and hundreds of yards to land and take off from. So I would very much suggest that is a possible airstrip there. So if you go to the next slide, you got Droop Mountain in the red, and you got the Denmark Correctional Center, the birth center. Can you see there's no other buildings, more or less, nothing. And then in the middle here it comes, it blew my mind when I saw it, in the yellow circle, the Gunite Institute. Here, now we're into speculation here, but that just made me fall backwards almost, because if you go to the next slide, this is a famous institute, If you go to the next slide, this is the building that is there. If you go back one, please. This is the building that is there, which some people might say that, oh, it's a really funny looking place. I think it looks really scary. I asked my daughter, she thought it would look horrific. But that is the Gunite Institute. And the one that created that is Patch Adams. If you go to the next slide, and Patch Adams is the one that Robin Williams portrayed in, I don't know the film of it. I think the name of the film was Patch Adams, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Where, well, Alfred, you used to know this man. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about him.
Yeah, when I lived in Washington in the 80s during the Reagan years, I lived as a group. We lived in the old Charles Evan Hughes mansion in Rock Creek Park, and Colonel Jim Channon of the 1st Earth Brigade, the men who stared at goats used to come by, and it was a kind of a wild collective there. And there was a thing in Washington called the Heart to Heart, and it was like the people who were into the multi-dimensional stuff. And Patch Adams was part of Heart to Heart, and he would come to, we'd have a monthly meeting, kind of a circle of light, you know, and get together and, you know, just have an evening of meditation and stuff like that. So I never really got into any depth because I thought he was just, he would come and do his kind of clown act and kind of leave. I never got in depth. But all of a sudden, when you're here in the, he's adjacent about 1.5 miles in between. And I'd like to, let me preface this by saying that we have not contacted the Gunite Institute or Patch Adams.
Sure.
There is no objective evidence to show that the work that the Gunite Institute is doing with children, because there are children at this location in the Gunite Institute. They're brought from Washington, D.C., which coincidentally is also the location of Pizzagate, which is one of the franchises of the worldwide pedocriminal industry. And so there is no indication. In fact, at the end of this program, I'm going to ask for a collective recommendation whether we should somehow officially send a copy of this program to the Gesundheit Foundation and ask that they view it and comment in writing, and so that we can begin to follow it up. However, do you have photographs of the Gesundheit Foundation building filled with children? Do you have that in here? Okay,
No.
There are photographs, which I will put it in the article accompanying this, filled with children. Okay, children come down from the Washington, D.C. area and other areas to the Gesundheit Foundation, which means God bless you in German. And they cycle through here, and then there are other programs. So it's a kind of a children's handicap medical type of thing, right? Are any alarm bells going off? And it's within 1.5 miles of the location of the fort. And if you begin to look inside of the kind of satanic area, they have, the clown figure has come out in a very, as kind of, the clown meme is now being used widely in satanic terror memes. You know, online, you have clown attacks all over. I don't know, it's a thing that's happening in circles where you'll have terror clowns, you know, they come on and attack in urban areas, and they're online. And there's a part of a clown which is an ambiguous. It can either be really funny or it can be like very satanic and a terror event. And Michael Shrimpton, Carrie Cassidy, you're familiar with her, Julieann. You must be familiar with her.
Absolutely.
She just did an excellent series of interviews with, among other than Michael Shrimpton, who is a barrister in the UK, who was actually jailed, went to prison for 6 months under false pretenses because he discovered that a nuclear weapon, a nuclear bomb, had been smuggled into the UK at the time of the 2012 Olympics to be exploded at the Olympic Stadium. And there have been a lot of predictive programming around that one, including movies. And he went to the police and they arrested him on grounds of promoting a bomb hoax. Can you believe that? And they held him long enough to have the bomb smuggled back out of the UK. And if you listen to those interviews, which are at Project Camelot, and there are a number of other people that corroborate this, it ties into the German DVD, which is the secret Nazi apparatus set up during World War II, which is based in Antarctica and in, as part of the Nazi secret space program, which actually won the war and runs the earth and runs the governments from behind. The secret Nazi space program and the secret Nazi DVD, according to this, was responsible for the JFK assassination, is responsible for 9/11. The Operation Paperclip was actually an operation of the German DVD. They actually run the US. And there are a lot of people blame other parties, but it's actually the secret Nazi government. And that the German DVD is actually running the criminal pedophile, and that there's a deep alliance between the Vatican, the Jesuits, and the German DVD. And that's, just go back to World War II and look at the photographs between Pope Pius XII and the German generals. I mean, they were at the same parties,
yes,
etc. Okay. Gesundheit.
Gesundheit.
Hiding in plain view. Gesundheit. God bless you.
Yes, they've got to get God in there, don't they?
Gesundheit.
Just like
Gesundheit. I think Gesundheit is a German word. Gesundheit.
It is a German
and
word.
then only a mile away in downtown tunnels, there is a national forest. Now, I know that this is not your area, but just indulge me. There's a part of our audience that in Exopolitics TV, and indulge me, that we study the secret space program, and part of the research shows that that the national or state parks are used for the vehicles that come in to gather the children to take them out to the slave portion of the secret space program with the facilities on other planets in the solar system. So if you have a funnel coming down the East Coast nationally that comes into the Gesundheit children, and it funnels over to the children there, and they can be evacuating the children also out into the solar system. They can be evacuating them back into Washington to Pizzagate. They can be evacuating them anywhere, because we don't know how this tunnel system works. We know that they're high speed. If you talk to some of the experts, they have high speed railway systems between various underground cities. So that apparatus, kind of the permanent war economy apparatus. And it was very disheartening for me to learn what you just mentioned about Peter Thiel, because that closes the circle between Peter Thiel, Ambrosia, and his control of the FDA, and the current US president, and his German roots, and the German DVD. It seems like a closed circle. So I just wanted to say that.
It felt
I would
like
like to.
just to validate what you just said.
I just wanted to point out as well, if you know, in Lower Canyon outside Los Angeles in the 60s, there this small little valley area that looks a little similar to this area as well, a bit isolated, very few buildings and so on, where the whole center of the rock era started within a few houses around the Frank Zappa house, and so many musicians that came, many of them without any skill in music or anything like that, were magically drawn into this little area, signed by CBS, and within months had all the equipment, the record deals, all of these things that started the whole flower power movement and rock and acid and LSD, this whole thing. And fair enough, I mean, things like that can happen. But in the center of this gathering of houses, and there are not that many of them, was the Lookout Mountain CAA installation, a massive big CAA operation, where it seems like the agenda for the whole flower power, get people away from politics, away from awareness, into drugs, into being totally not caring about anything, and also pumping in the thousands LSD tablets and so on woods, on these big open arenas and so on. There was agenda behind there, and where many of these musicians had their parents coming from military complexes like these that we're talking about. So once again, I've done many interviews about this. David McGowan, that unfortunately died last year, he was incredible when it came to exposing these things as well. So when we look at this area, and I would very much suggest that people who are listening to this, please look in the area where you live. Are there any similarities there? Because I believe that we're looking at one spot of a big network with very similar things occurring in maybe hundreds of places all over the state. I don't know, but I would not be surprised if when we pull the thread out of this one, it will just start opening up a big can of worm, which is why it's so important that we do it. If you want to go to the next slide.
Sure.
It's we're still at Patch Adams here, and I mean, I really hope that I'm totally wrong when it comes to him. I thought it was a beautiful film with Robert Williams, and I just couldn't believe it when I found this place of all right in the middle. But it makes sense if there is a dark agenda behind it as well, how to make a beautiful front cover that will make you sort of divert the attention away from what's actually going on.
Yeah.
Because
now I just like to say from, a legal point of view that what we're saying is speculation.
Totally.
And we're not making any absolute statements that these activities are going on there. However, we're looking at the proximity and probable cause, and so it may be that this is totally innocent, and that's why I propose that we should send a copy of this program to the Gesundheit Foundation for their review and response. Now, we'll see what their response is.
So
if they are a true eleemosynary organization, they would push the aggressive panic button and get to the bottom of this issue.
Yeah, exactly. And even if they were not involved, it's going on so close to where they're situated. So
exactly.
If they really care for children, if I were them, I would get my butt over there and start digging after these tunnels and get these kids out there if they're still there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So
if you
Yeah,
go
so
to the
this
next
is like
slide,
this will be like a litmus test in a way. The quality of their response,
mm,
whatever it will be a litmus test.
Agreed.
if you go to the next slide,
Yeah.
I just have a few more left.
Yeah.
It is, it's just, well, you can see that old guys, young children. If you go to the next one, there are different slides from the inside. Here, if you have a suspicious mind, which I have, if you look at the image to the right, the pillows are made like butterflies, which are symbols for mind control in the monarch.
MK Ultra.
MK Ultra, yeah. And so also the next slide as well. I mean, funny house or horror castle, I'm not sure. I certainly hope that I'm totally wrong, that is for sure. But also what they do is they do trips to Guatemala, it says on their website. And Guatemala is one of these places as well where lots of street children are disappearing in the thousands. And it's also one of these places where Chip Tatum was part of flying weapons down there in the Iran-Contra scandal. He was one of the pilots. And then tons of drugs back to the elite. I mean, we're talking directly to Bill Clinton and George Bush Sr. receiving these drugs, starting the whole crack epidemic in the US. It's the Mena, Arkansas scandal around that whole thing. So are we seeing, is it the same network being used for drugs and children and organs and weapons? Like I would suggest there are many other examples of when you look into different cases like this. Then if you go to the next slide, it was just one thing I found. You know, the FBI, if you go to the next slide. If you look at the sheriff, the star of the sheriff in West Virginia, up onto the right, that image there, it's a symbol where FBI have unclassified different symbols that are being used in pedophile activities and hidden, once again, hidden in plain sight. And this symbol is called boy lover. That is what it goes for. And if you look at the star, it's the exact symbol, but reversed.
Oh my gosh. So this is the West Virginia Deputy Sheriff badge.
Yeah, yeah.
And you go to the individual spokes of the star.
Yeah.
And the individual spoke is the FBI unclassified pedophile symbol for boy lover.
Yeah.
What is your opinion?
I can say that I've been looking.
Yeah, personally, and then Julieann.
I can just say that I can send you images of, I think I've got like 30 different sheriff stars from different states, and so many of them have Freemasonic symbols on them. So, I mean, no wonder that if we're waiting for the official authorities to do something, I don't believe it at all. It's up to us to make a difference, you know.
This is so astounding. I mean, this is beyond horrific. This is a total reversal of the law. This is diabolical, in my opinion. In my legal opinion, this is diabolical. Julieann, could you give us your assessment of this from, you know, multiple levels, that, you know, as a clinician, as a researcher and observer of this area?
Well, I have to say this is quite a find, finding it right there on the badge. That's a fantastic find. I think, like many of us, I've been rooting around in Pizzagate quite up and down that street, and I was all over that Instagram and all over, you know, I got screenshots of everything before James Alefantis shut it down. And so I pretty much tracked down everybody's Facebook. And some of those people pretty much still haunt me. It's a little bit difficult to haunt me, to be really honest with you. After 18 years, I've seen a lot, and so I'm fairly capable of managing my emotion around things. But when I see something like this on a symbol that is meant to be for law enforcement, this is the symbol is meant to be. This is to be a protective badge to protect and serve. And yet, embedded within it is the very symbol for boy lover. And if I recall, this is for older boy lover, boys, you know, 8 to 14 or ish, somewhere in there, with the more squiggly line being the younger one, known as chicken lovers, which was, you know, horrific enough. When I see something like this, it is just reminiscent, to be frank with both of you, to some of the cases of the folks that I have dealt with who have not only been satanically ritually abused, because I have had patients who have had pentagrams carved in their stomachs. I mean, I've practiced 18 years now, so I've seen I've seen kind of a variety, but I've also seen a lot of cases of pedophilia, and children, not just products of incest, pedophilia based on incest, but children who are trafficked. In fact, here on our reservation, and I'm not breaking any confidentiality by just stating this fact, there is some concern that there is a fairly large and robust human trafficking, child sex trafficking operation currently in play. And I know this because I, of course, work with law enforcement, being a clinician. So it's everywhere. Alfred, like you said, when when Ule said, I think, you know, we're going to pull this thread and find it everywhere. It is everywhere. When I lived in Moscow, Idaho, and I was doing my undergraduate degrees, on the satanic holidays, they would block off entire mountains where you are not allowed to go. There were guards up there. There were people dressed in robes. And if you went up there afterwards, you would find, which we did. I was a young person then, in my 20s. You know, we found a beheaded horse. We found beheaded animals. I mean, we found animal sacrifices everywhere. It's everywhere, and Moscow is just fairly small. It's the University of Idaho, so it's not, you know, uber small like where I am right now. But what I'm saying is, it's everywhere. It's from here, from this small reservation, up through Moscow, where I went to my undergrads, all the way to Flagstaff, Arizona, where the large satanic group was, where the individual, and this was over 15 years ago now, so I feel that I can state that that was an individual that showed up and could not speak to me. She could not tell me what was wrong. She just lifted her shirt to show me. And so, and these are children that are encouraged to, and this is difficult to hear, so I understand the listening audience may have a hard time with this, so please bear with me. But these are children that are encouraged to interact with bestiality, with cannibalism. These are things that are very hard to hear as a therapist, but I assure you, it is very real. Whether you fall on one side or the other, folks out there listening, whether you think Pizzagate is a psyop or a plant or whatever, you know, we could talk about that at a different time. But ritual child sexual abuse on a huge scale, on an international scale, I am convinced after 25 years of research in the truth movement and my own clinical experience, it is extremely real and very serious. And we have to do something about it.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. I feel very passionately about it. I've had clients on their hands and knees begging me to help them. And it is, it has broke my heart over and over and over and over. Yet, you know, I love my job. You know, it is a dialectic, you know, it is both. Just like everything in life, right? It's both. It is both a joy and difficult. It's the dialectic.
And I think this is the most extreme area of them all. I mean, it's, and
Yes.
this is also why I feel it's very, the things we're talking about is so brutal to the listeners as well. And so I think many people can find it very hard to comprehend. But since these children are in captivity, this is not a time to go gentle, you know, and come forward gently. We need to shake ourselves up and get, you know, get out of the sofa and do something. Really start exposing these, because the thing is, you will see it, the Freemasonic networks are in the background all the time. These type of brotherhood networks, secret, hidden ones. And you can go to your local town, find out who are the members, when are they meeting, what are they doing, and so on. You will find maybe it's your uncle, maybe it's your brother, maybe it's whatever. On the lower levels, members will be totally not have a clue of what's going on. But once you get up to the higher levels, be assured they know what's going on and they are part of driving the bus. And these are the people that are often in power positions in communities, in towns, in cities, because the members are only, you have to be suggested at least by 2 other members. So they handpick these people in key positions to get control behind the scene, to be able to pull the strings so that we don't see what's going on. So be assured that people like sheriffs and judges and all of these will be controlled in these areas. So don't expect them to do it. You will see they will show their guilt by not doing anything. You go there, you tell them different things. I guarantee you, they will do nothing. If they're involved, nothing will happen. So that's a very clear sign that they are involved. So these are the people you cannot trust. So it's up to us, once again, it's up to us to take back the power and, you know, stop playing with our belly button, get out of the sofa, do something, turn off the TV. It's happening now, and these children are suffering now, not tomorrow, now. They're now. So just imagine if you were somewhere chained up in a cold, horrible place where people are doing awful stuff to you. It's unimaginable, the horror. And then imagine the rest of us not doing anything, even though we know about it, because there's no excuse anymore. It's out there big time. If you want to find out, it's out there. So it's your choice to be asleep, but it's not an excuse. And I say, let's do it, for God's sake. Do it now.
Agreed. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Alfred,
This
are
is
you still with us?
no. I mean, I'm in such a state of shock. You know, as a person who tries to navigate within the parameters of the law, you know, as one of the parameters because of my training, I'm looking at this, and this is a complete reversal of the law. This is a use of the law for evil, and it's just shocking. It is so shocking, and this is occurring in the United States, in
It's
the
occurring in
state
so
of
many.
West Virginia, and West Virginia is Droop Mountain, and Droop Mountain is where you got the report, and no wonder we have not gotten any reflection back from the from our first program, which was sent widely throughout the state. It was sent throughout the state. All authorities know about it. Major media know about it. The whole network of truth workers that support a number of people who went up against the state. I mean, it's like it's known throughout the state, and we didn't get one.
Wow.
And why? Because look what the state is. The state is a pedophile state. It's a pedocriminal state. It's just beyond. And what camp is the current president of the United States in? Well, his backer, Peter Thiel, in the FDA, is industrializing fresh young people's blood as ambrosia. So that's the current state of the union. Boom. I mean, it's graphic, it's there.
Yes.
You know, for all of these years when I've been looking into assassinations and horror things and so on, never once have I gone to the police. Never once have I approached the official investigation, because I know that is the only place you will not find the truth when it comes to these type of operations. If it's a car theft or somebody took your handbag, yes, then they will look. But when it comes to on this level, absolutely not. And do you know Fletcher Prouty? He was the one that is called Mr. X in the JFK movie. Fletcher Prouty, he used to work in the Pentagon. He was the head of Black Ops for many years. And he's the guy who's played by Donald Sutherland in the JFK movie. Anyway, what he said was, because he became a whistleblower afterwards and spent his whole life trying to expose what happened behind many of these operations. And he said one of the clear signs of a Black Op is not what happens, but what does not happen. And this is what we see again and again. Nothing happens. And I would strongly suggest we're at a point in time where if you take the names of what they give us, you know, they call it the Operation Freedom and Liberty when they go and invade a country, turn it around 180 degrees around and call it the right name, which be Operation Slaughter, Plunder, and Rape, you know. And these children, what do you call it, care, what of these things, often turn it around, and you will find, and just see their actions. Do their action go together with the name if you turn it upside down, or the way it is? And that will show you, I would suggest, many times that, whoa, this is the place where it's actually happening. They are not there taking care of the children. They're there hurting them by doing these things. The social services, it's not the social services for you. They are taking from you to deliver somewhere else. The police is not many times there to protect you. They are there to control you and protect their employers, which is not us, even though we're the ones paying them. I'm not saying this about each and every, there's wonderful, beautiful, honest police officers and sheriffs all over the place, but they need to step forward, because otherwise they are part of protecting this whole thing and keeping it intact from the rest of us. because this needs to stop.
Agreed.
Same with military forces also. It's time to wake up. It's not okay to play along anymore, you know, and just go around like, yeah, but I didn't know. Yeah, I was given orders. Absolutely not an excuse. This is the time for you to look yourself in the mirror and deal with your soul, because you're the one creating bad karma for yourself. This is the time to become who you're supposed to be, not some kind of a wimp in a big uniform with a massive gun that looks impressive and maybe is some kind of babe magnet. I don't know. It is the time for you to prove yourself as a beautiful human being, courageous human being that stands up for what is true and right, and not hiding behind some kind of, yeah, but I didn't know. Yeah, it was my duty. Your duty is to stand up and make a difference. Not easy, scary like hell. Yes, not impossible. We all have to do that. And I mean, come on. It's for the kids. It's for our children. I don't get it. I don't get it. Why are we even hesitating? It's shameful. We can do better than that. A lot better. Otherwise, we should get ourselves a big kick in the butt, you know, and shame on us if we don't do anything.
You know, one thing that did that, you know, I completely agree with everything you said there. I can't agree more. I could underline it and bold it and italicize it, and it still wouldn't be enough. You know, I just want to say this though. I really understand, to those listening, that this is extremely difficult information to consume. And what I mean by consume is to take inside of you. But what Ule is talking about is being a values-driven person, meaning what is your first foot forward in your life? Who you want to be about as a human being? And this is to the law officers, to the judges, to the psychologists, I mean, to the just the garden variety person. Who do you want to be about as a human being? Your values. And if you're willing, which I think is kind of the fulcrum for everything, I think it's like a seesaw. Willingness is kind of like the fulcrum, and you're either more willing or less willing. So in this situation, what we're saying is we've come upon some information that is radically important. And if you're sort of on the fence and you're having a difficult time sort of engaging this, I understand. I validate that. I really do. I'm a therapist. I get it. And, you know, I would encourage folks to take a deep breath. And if there's anything that came out of the Pizzagate for me personally, was the artwork, I don't know if you gentlemen saw it, by this woman named Kim Noble, who produced some of those really disturbing paintings, that one of which was in Comet Ping Pong. Do you guys know who Kim Noble?
Not specifically. I'm familiar with some of the artwork in Comet Ping Pong Pizzeria, but and I may have seen it, but I'm not, you know, I wouldn't be able to say that's a Kim Noble painting.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is that, you know, folks, the tunnels lead to what Kim Noble is painting. Now, Kim Noble claims to have something which is known in my field as dissociative identity disorder, which was once known as multiple personality disorder. She claims to have over 100 personalities. And I have no comment on that whatsoever. I haven't treated her. I have no idea. But she paints. So if you go to kimnoble.com and you look under one of her personalities named Ria Pratt, R-I-A-P-R-A-T-T, there are a number of disturbing pictures of child sexual abuse, of adults harming children. I'm not even going to discuss what are in the pictures. There are paintings, but what's interesting about them is that in the pictures she's drawing like the child being abused, and then there's a faint outline of the child off to the side dissociating. She's painted them dissociating because of the trauma that's happening to them. And so, like what Ule is saying is like, it's time to stop, you know, counting belly button lint. If you need something to really start a fire under you, that will. Look at those pictures and start really fathoming it. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy. The willingness is going to be low. You're not going to want to look at it. However, if we're ever going to put a stop to this, you must be willing. If it's your values to be someone, heck, your values are open anyway, or you wouldn't even be listening to this. You're sitting here through this. If you're willing, go look at this and then think about it. And then think about what part you could play in finding out what's going on in Droop Mountain and under other museums in other places. It's just a thought, but I thought I'd throw it out there because for me, those paintings, they're devastating. They are a very accurate rendition of what clients have told me that has happened to them. So I have no doubt this woman has suffered this in her lifetime.
Right.
I also want to say that there is a incredible arrogance among the people who are committing these things, that they see themselves as something totally above us, that they see the rest of us that we deserve absolutely no respect. We're useless eaters, to quote Henry Kissinger, and so on. And they put it right in our face. They hide it. They don't even hide it. It's like they take it on a pizza and they squash it right in your face for us to wake up. And it's if I can show you just a few more slides, if you can.
Yes.
It's let me just see. We go to the next slide. I mean, if you go back one. Okay, Sandy Hook is a very sensitive area. I have spent many hundreds of hours looking into that. I've been part of doing a book together with Jim Fetzer where there's 12 different PhDs, researchers on a very high level and so on that have written different chapters in this book. It's called Nobody Died in Sandy Hook, at Sandy Hook. And it's like 475 pages going through all the different evidence, all the different things showing absolute not real event. Absolutely zero died. You can go to FBI's own website. You go 2012, you check out Newtown, which Sandy Hook is underneath, and look at the number of homicides. It is zero. Zero. Okay. So 6 weeks after Sandy Hook, I'm just pointing one thing out here to show how arrogant it is. I mean, it's incredible. One of the children that was said to have been killed, a little child, a girl, was in Obama's lap a few days after at a photo session, okay? I'm not making these things up, I tell you. There's also 6 weeks after this whole thing, there was the Super Bowl, and there was a choir of unknown children singing there. All of these children have been identified more or less spot on as some of the killed children, just a few years older. When you compare the photo, the facial recognition, all of these things, these children, but a few years older. Anyway, so how is it possible? I go back to Fletcher Prouty again, and he was once in Greece with the CIA director Alan Dulles, and they were driving down the road, and they passed like this big area, like a tourist area, like an urbanization, big, lots of houses, lots of people. And Dulles said to Fletcher Prouty, "Do you know what that is?" Prouty said, "No." Is it some kind of holiday resort or something? No, Dulles said, "No, they're all ours. Sleeping agents, active, former agents, wannabes, children. Many of these families are born into this, you know, so the children grow up inside the agencies, ready for whatever is needed, flown in on location to be part of background extras or whatever." This, what he turned out and showed, was a CIA operation. That whole village, Sandy Hook, is very small. The school wasn't even active. It was closed down a few years earlier, and so on and so on. The headmaster that was killed there also died at the Boston Marathon, and so on. It is a big hoax.
Yes.
But 6 weeks later, they were right there at the Super Bowl in our face. If you go to the next slide, because this is, we're getting close here now to current time. There is a big scandal in England. There are some people I know in England that were part of exposing this. It's called the Hampstead big child scandal, where two small children came forward and spoke in incredible detail about how their dad was part of, he was the one of the top people inside a sex ritual sect where they did all of these horrific things we were talking about in Hampstead, you know, where many of the shops in Hampstead was connected to this whole thing. They did, I mean, you can't even go there. When the mother and other people brought this forward, they were put they were gagged. They were not allowed to do anything, and the children was taken away from the mother. Okay, so she has had no idea where the children have gone, and this is 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. Now, February 5th, it's not even a month ago, 2017, at the Super Bowl, Audi, the car Audi, had a commercial call titled Daughter. In it, if you go to the next slide, there are like a car race where different children are racing. And among these two children in this commercial, the mother and the grandmother has identified their children, their family members, as two of the kids in the commercial. In your face.
Yes.
They do it in our face. So, and this is just a few examples. I mean, there's so much with product placement in terror acts, you know, where they put in Coca-Cola bottles on Nike trainers in the middle of all of this fake blood and so on, so that we will totally, while we're being blown away emotionally by all this horror, we'll also spend some dollars on some new trainers or a Coca-Cola and so on. It is so cynical, so cold, so business-minded, you know, just another day at the office while the rest of us are asleep.
Yes, I knew immediately about Sandy Hook the day that the mother was just talking about how they got markers and they drew on their daughter's white coffin, and they just were laughing and talking about her life, and they drew all over her white coffin for an hour. She spoke about this in her interview with Anderson Cooper, which was filled, by the way, with neuro-linguistic programming on his part, and they were following, you know, right along. But what parent who just lost their child is going to go on CNN and talk about how we all sat around and drew flowers on the white coffin? It's disgusting. It's a mockery of parenthood. Excuse me? If my 2 children were killed, that's the last thing on earth I would be doing. The last.
But you know, many of the parents couldn't even remember the name of the child. They got it wrong. They got the sex of the child wrong. And Noah Postner, that was a 6-year-old boy that was killed there. He died 2 years later in Peshawar in Afghanistan on the exact 2 days before. Pretty amazing. I mean, you really start believing in reincarnation when you start looking into these things, I tell you.
That's a good point, Ule, because I was wondering, I thought, didn't Noah die a couple of years ago? But see, I mean, I swear that's our saving grace. I mean, what psychologists do they hire to do this stuff? It's so sloppy. I'm serious. It's almost our saving grace that they're so pathetically bad at pulling these false flags off, really, because there is no psychologist that would tell them, just go on TV and pretend that, you know, everything's okay. But see, that's programming. They're programming us to, because it was a capstone event, this whole Sandy Hook thing, they're programming us that we're supposed to be able to handle emotion and not have any affect except acceptance. Just this very, that fighting spirit that the 3 of us are talking about here, that's what they want gone. That's why they have these mothers on there saying, and we just drew on the coffin and it was so wonderful. And we wrote about how pretty she was and drew some flowers and a rainbow and a pony and it was some jazz hands. And it's meant to program us to just be docile, to be sheeple. If you look at the Christmas cards all the way back for Christmas for the last few years between Fox, CNN, and all the major networks that, they share with each other but not out to the public. Like one year it has some sleds, like here's a sled and here's another sled, and the one that's ahead in the ratings is like Fox. And so they're the sled in the front. And then there's, wherever, I don't know, MSNBC, whatever. I don't watch mainstream. But guess what's pulling all the sleds? Sheep. Yeah, it's a joke to them. It's a joke. So if you get a hold of those cards, you're looking at that like, they're poking fun. They're like, well, the sheep, yeah, we're ahead in the ratings because our sheeple are moving faster than your sheeple. And shame on us. I mean, it's a mockery and, just shoving it in our face. I don't know, Ule, I'll turn it back to you, but I do have one example I do want to add before we end. One thing of that's very much like what you're showing here with the Hampstead kids in a recent commercial of kids that I believe are being trafficked. But let me turn it back over to you.
No, please continue.
Okay, then are either of you guys familiar with Spirit Halloween, the store?
No.
Okay, you can just go to spirithalloween.com, and I don't think that this is, it's not like indigenous to Spirit, the company. So I'm not saying anything about Spirit because it's the same costumes, at Walmart or wherever. They all have the same costumes. But Spirit just so happens to be one of the largest purveyors of Halloween costumes in America. And I have 2 young kiddos, 2 young boys, and so of course Halloween comes around and they want to shop. And what Spirit does is they roll into a community and they set up in an empty store for 2 months for September and October, and then they leave. So Spirit's kind of, I don't know, just the first thing that comes to your mind. I would encourage folks out there wondering about, children, lost children, to look on Spirit Halloween or any costumes anywhere online. If you go on Spirit Halloween, just for that example, I'm going to guesstimate every fourth costume where it's supposed to be a boy, specifically the ones that are dressed in Cinderella, Elsa, you know, the very most feminine, are actually young boys. Now, ignore the hair and see with eyes to see, and you will see what I'm talking about. And you say to yourself, who are these children? What parent here? And it's all the way up from the one-year-old, you know, they have toddler costumes, they have, you know, middle age, they have tweeners, they have teens, and they're all very obviously, at least 1 in 4, not the ones that say girl costumes, they're boys. So if they're mocking us, just like what he's saying in this commercial, where there's these children right in our face. Well, here's these children dressed as girls. They're not. This came to my attention last Halloween. I was just looking at costumes and I thought, wait a minute, that's not a little girl. And then I started really looking at it and doing research and pulling it out. And out of, you know, I came out with, I think, 47 out of the entire website that it wasn't even a question to me. And when I flashed them, you know, just to other people, even to my own son, who's 12, my older son, you know, what do you think about this costume? The first words out of his mouth was, why is that boy wearing that Elsa costume? So that's the transgender agenda, and it melds in with the trafficking, because I wonder, where are these kids coming from? What parent puts these kids there? I don't mean just for Spirit, I mean in the costume industry. And it's not just the costumes. You look at many products. I started branching out. I was looking at, like, even Play School, their advertisements. The girls, they're not all girls. It's so painful to see. I'm a parent. It breaks my heart. But they're not, it's in our face. It's a mockery. And, you know, I stand by that. I really do. And I'm sure there are folks out there now saying, no. But if they put it in a commercial here, you know, right in our face, which they do, that's what the Super Bowl commercials are. It's one long propaganda. I mean, what was it, 2 years ago, Obama signed into law that it's legal to propagandize us. That was part of the NDAA 2 years ago that he signed 5 minutes before midnight on New Year's Eve when most Americans were out doing something else. So it's legal now to propagandize us. So they are. That's what the Super Bowl commercials are. One long, I mean, you know, you could decode. I think it's predictive programming. I think it's the transhuman agenda. It's the transgender agenda. It's all of their agendas, all of them.
On a street level, I would very much suggest for parents to be very aware of natural parks, national parks, because this is one of the areas where you will see a lot of children has disappeared. And this is also, when you look at it from their point of view, a perfect place to abduct children. It's in nature. You can have a team of 2-3 people hiding in the bushes. One child just drifts off. Boom. There's a tunnel network hidden right underneath. The child will be gone in seconds. Boom. And many people that are unemployed or retired or something, why not help by go in, look at cold cases, map the whole thing. How did people disappear? Where did they disappear? Are there any specific key locations where, because this will be like an industrial line, there will be, I tell you, very specific locations. That is where they disappear. This is where they disappear. And then once you start map this whole thing out, let's go there. I mean, if I'm in the area or someone else, let's go there, check out the facilities. Let's find these tunnels, block them, blow them up, whatever, and really expose the whole thing, because this can only go on in the dark. These people are extreme cowards, and so as soon as you aim the spotlight at them, they disappear like cockroaches. They cannot function when they're seen. So let's put the light everywhere, in every single little corner of these dark areas of the belly of the beast, and stop it. You know, the more the better. The more areas we can find, the more entries into this whole network we can find, the better. So get active and share. Don't go into organizations. Organizations get infiltrated super easy. Be part of a network. Distribute your information between other people. Please send to me anything you have that can help. I will do everything I can to share it, spread it, act, and do my part in any possible way I can. But avoid these big groups, because they, as soon as there's a group with influence, it will be invaded and taken apart. That is their job, and so let's take the power back, but do it cleverly.
I think I'm probably butchering his name, but David Paulides, the gentleman who wrote the 411 books, he has stated that the largest incidence of children or people gone missing is in Yosemite National Park.
Alfred, maybe we could invite him on the show. That would be amazing.
Sure. Yeah, that'd be very interesting.
I don't have his contact details, but if he listens to this, please contact Alfred or me or whatever.
Yeah, we can track him
share
down.
this information that he has gathered. It would be extremely helpful.
You know, he's done some amazing stuff. He's got a couple, decades in law enforcement, and then he started, he's been doing this since 2009. I think I started listening to him a while ago, and then the other day, Ule and I were talking about it, and I was like, I can't remember his name, but he's got a map in which he has the clusters showing exactly where most of the disappearances are. And if you draw a map of the United States, it's like a horseshoe right up the coast of California and down and up around the Rockies and down. Nothing in the middle of the United States at all. And then another little horseshoe up in the top, kind of around in Maine, and then it curves down in a little bit into Florida. But mostly it's up around Maine, down into West Virginia, where I believe West Virginia is the state with the largest per capita missing children. I believe I read that fact the other day. So that's where it kind of makes a question mark. But then over here on where I am on the Rockies, and he's mapped it out. He's looking at correlational variables, like it's usually by water. They are usually either of lower intelligence on the IQ spectrum, or of extremely higher intelligence, and just he's the risk factors, and he'd be awesome. He'd be so interesting.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. Please, let's get hold of this guy. This is exactly the thing I'm talking, this mapping, right. And so we can pinpoint where it's going on.
One of the things, I will do that. Well, one of the things that just occurs to me, wasn't the senator from West Virginia called Senator Byrd?
Goodness, I don't know.
Yeah, okay. Senator Byrd had a lot of seniority. He was from West Virginia and therefore he was able to force the CIA and the government to build its continuity of government, its COG, continuity of government, which is the underground government. And the underground CIA is built in West Virginia. So they have underground cities in West Virginia,
Yes.
and the underground continuity of government, so that if there ever is, they're vaulted emergencies, then the whole government would leave Washington and go into West Virginia underground. Now, what's the correlation between the Deputy Star, the pedophile men and boy on the West Virginia Deputy Star, the fact that the CIA and the continuity of government is in West Virginia, and the fact that David Paulides has found from his map that the pedophile, the most heavily per capita pedophile, is in West Virginia. What's the correlation there? That is very, I believe that there's a correlation, and the fact that the CIA, which is a creation of the German DVD, of the German Nazi government. We're still fighting World War II, where the United States is occupied by the Nazi government. That the CIA and continuity of government, in other words, the German DVD, the Nazi government is underground in West Virginia. What's the correlation there? And it could correlate to some underground facility into, this gets into my exopolitical work and the different exopolitical races like the Dracos. I don't want to go there in this particular program, but I'm just raising correlations here for future studies.
Well, listen, guys, I need to go soon.
Oh, okay. Before we go to the next slide, I just wanted to mention that
there are no slides.
We spent a lot of time with Ella and Abe, who are the parents of the two Hampstead whistleblower children, and they actually whistle blew on the whole thing, and we did a lot of programming on it, and the two parents, Ella and Abe, did a program in which they demonstrated that this Hampstead ring led directly up to the government and the then Prime Minister David Cameron in 10 Downing Street, and a lot of the members of Parliament. So there's a direct correlation there. So I'm just going to go to the next slide.
There are no more slides.
Oh, there are no more slides. Okay, so let's go back to our original thing here. Okay, so thank you both for. This is like an awesome program. You've raised the bar, I think, here on programming this area, and I really appreciate you both bringing your degree of excellence and your insight and wisdom and the work that you put in for this and the discoveries that you've made in this slide and the research and many years of work that you've put in. Julieann, thank you so much. I wondered if I know that you both have mentioned that you have to go, but I'd like to ask for closing comments from each of you on where you think this Droop Mountain issue, where we should take this and where this should go in its next phase.
Julieann?
Julieann, do you have?
Well, I'll tell you what I've been doing on my end. Just trying to gather research. I'm doing some research into Pocahontas County. I'm doing some research into Droop Mountain. I looked into the last battle there and how the story of the two brothers and how one ended up, even though he was a Union soldier, buried in the Confederate cemetery. and wondering if that was somehow a false story. You know, just looking at if, you know, I'm looking for things that I might want to decode out of a big pile of information. So I'm doing kind of what I call right now data mining this issue, looking at any controversies that have occurred within a 100-mile radius of this area that involve children. There, of course, have been a number of children that I have looked into this week in preparation for this talk. I was also looking into children who have been abducted from museums, not this museum, but different museums, and started making a list of that so that perhaps I could, you know, find some correlations there, so that we could maybe start looking, you know, geophysically for underground tunnels, or really I'm just trying to do a lot of data mining, looking in every area I can think of, also looking at state hospitals in that county, because I want to investigate what types of mental illness are most often reported there, meaning what is their incidence of child sexual abuse being reported there? Is it extraordinarily low, extraordinarily high? Is it going to strike me as odd? I'm looking at whether the area itself politically is conservative or liberal, simply because I'm interested in the number of Planned Parenthoods that are there, because Planned Parenthood has had some correlation in the past with some suggestion of, you know, selling organs, tiny organs, right? That came out last year. So those are kind of the areas that I've got about 4 or 5 different maps going, and I'm trying to kind of, whenever I get interested in an issue, what I do. So that's where I am right now.
Well, thank you.
I would say I would very much like to look more into the Denmark mental institution, or that whole thing. I can guarantee you it is one of these places that I can almost swear it ticks all the boxes, that there's something very weird historically that's been going on, and they've just upgraded this place, used it for different types of experiments and horrific things. So that one, if anyone listening knows anything about that, please contact me or Alfred or Julieann. My website is lightonconspiracies.com. That's plural, lightonconspiracies.com. My email is info@lightonconspiracies.com. And also this birthing center and the whole little small area, very interesting. I would also very much like to get in contact with people from the Gunite Institute. My deep felt apologies if we have been unfair. At the same time, please step forward and show your willingness to dig deeper in this, because apparently there's a big chance that you are right in the middle of something very, very ugly. So here's the chance for you to step up and be there. You're on location, so you can help us. If you care so much for children, help us expose this whole thing. And I feel very strongly about getting in contact with this 411 guy, yeah, and get a bigger picture. It's always so important to get from a higher level, the higher up you can get, so that you get a sort of a big overview of what's going on. That's when you can start seeing how this whole pipeline is worked, because there will be like a delivery system of abducting children, transporting them, receiving them, preparing them, and also afterwards taking care of whatever is left. You know, it's a horrific story to get into, but it needs to be exposed. And Alfred, can I thank you for giving us this platform?
Thank you, Al.
And
Oh,
also,
listen, thank you. I mean, this is really carrying the public interest forward at the highest at the highest level. Just as soon as we have the links, I'd like to send them to you. And then Ole, if you and whether Julieann wants to join in or not, if you want to send them forward, initiate contact with the Gunite Institute,
yeah,
that's fine. If not, I will do it, and I will also initiate contact with David Politis for a future program, so that we could have a panel, and let's start generating data that way, along with other things that may arise in the meantime. Thank you.
I would also like to say, on a selfish, or I don't know if so selfish, but on a more personal level,
it's flow. It's part of the support flow of the universe, and that is, this is the moment where, look, you've got Peter Thiel and the billionaires are out there harvesting infants' blood as a commodity out there, on the stock market to sell to people. And all of here, depends on contributions. So his website is lightonconspiracies.com. I'll turn it over to you, Ole, but he needs our support. Ole, please.
This is the thing. I am willing to do anything for the good, for the betterment of the world. Anything. I'm willing to go anywhere to face anyone, but financially, I'm not strong. And these things, what I try to do when a false flag operation happens, I try to go on location as soon as possible, hopefully even before it happens. I know that I've been part of stopping several planned massacres, and hopefully I'm a major boil in the butt for these forces. When it comes to these areas as well, get me over there. I'll be most happy to anything I can. But it's, once again, it's this financial bummer that is there the flow needs to be there. So there are donation buttons on my website. My books on Amazon. I've got several books there. Sign up for my newsletter, my membership. I'm a one-man band. That's the only income I have when it comes to these things. And if you don't want to support me, please support Julieann, Alfred, or any other researcher that you really respect, because all of us that are doing this type of thing needs backup, because it is a lonesome and not very fruitful way, except for truth and harmony and beauty, all of these things. That is a magnificent area to get into, because here you can really see things blossoming and amazing people and so on. But if it's okay with you, can I finish with a prayer?
Please.
Yes.
I'm not a religious person. I believe religion is a control tool, misused many times. But I have this prayer that my Raja Yoga teacher, Nelani Chelaram, has made. I absolutely love it. It goes like this. May the entire universe be filled with peace and joy, love and light. May everyone, and especially the ones who hurt us, be filled with peace and joy, love and light. Victory to that light.
Thank you.
Like I say, we all need to heal. That's the thing. If they don't heal the people that are hurting us, this madness will continue. So it's in our interest as well that they get healed. Not that it's not up to us to chop the head of them and get revenge. That leads us nowhere. It gets us absolutely nowhere. We need to heal this whole thing and transcend it. Non-violent, transcend it to the next beautiful level. And there you go.
I'm in complete agreement. I'm all about wellness and healing. And I just started my own website. It's called Time Rider, TYMERIDER, timerider.com. and it's not up and running yet, but it will be. But I am on Facebook under timewriter.com. So if anyone's interested, or just Gmail me at my name, juliannpankey@gmail.com. And I'd love to conversate with anyone. I'm interested in just moving forward in a very organic and very authentic way to promote wellness for all of us and to help these children and all of us, really.
I also want to say thank you to you, Julieann, and that you accepted my invitation. And it's been an absolute joy and pleasure. And I really, really appreciate you as a human being and with all the wealth of knowledge and caring.
Thank you so much. It's been a blast, and I look forward to more of this. It's
For sure.
it was I could feel it. It feels so good. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you both.
Yes, gentlemen, have a lovely rest of your day.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.